Hello there, and thank you for joining us on board the Enchanted Princess for our 7-day Caribbean cruise. So, on this cruise, we're going to leave out of Fort Lauderdale. We're going to have a day at sea, and then we're going to visit Cozumel, Belize, Roatan in Honduras, and Costa Maya back in Mexico before returning back to Fort Lauderdale with a day at sea in between. Now, on our day out of Fort Lauderdale, we got to hear Princess play their departure song here. And it also precedes basically your departure out of Fort Lauderdale. So we go ahead and give you a quick little view with us blocking out the hotels in the background there, but the ship had kind of parked sideways back in one of the ports, so it was really neat to kind of get to film it doing a sideways move as it tried to get out of the port here. Now, leaving out of Fort Lauderdale is actually kind of fun because they are always going to be sounding their horns as they go past the hotels, and there's always people waiting to buy out of the condos here. But after you get out of the port here, they're going to go ahead and have themselves a really neat sail away party here. And the Enchanted Princess is one of the few princess ships that actually brings their dancers out as part of the entertainment for the sail away party, which is a little bit less common. So after the sail away party, we ended up heading back in and walking around the ship a little bit before we headed off to dinner in the main dining room to go ahead and grab something to eat that evening before we headed off for that particular evening's entertainment. Now, that evening's entertainment was a comedy magician here.
You all ready for some magic? Yes, let's get started straight away. I need somebody to hold my wallet. Right, so keep hold of the wallet. That'll be important in a few moments. It's the trapdoor. Right, what's your name, sir? Eric. Nice to meet you, Eric. I'm Johnny. What we're gonna do, we're gonna have a bit of fun, yeah? Use our imagination. Now, I have one of these. Eric, you know what this is? Yes, it's an invisible purse.
Our next day was a day at sea, and we started off the day doing a workout up in the fitness center up on deck 17, which has an amazing view out the starboard side of the ship here, before we headed off to the buffet to get something to eat, make a few friends, and take a look at the new robot that they got running around in the buffet to try and help the servers get dishes back into the kitchen. And after that, we ended up doing dinner in the main dining room again, just as we didn't do a lot else that day besides work out and grab something to eat. After dinner, they were doing a champagne pour out in the main piazza with the cruise director here. This seems to be something of a tradition that they'd like to do on most princess ships that we have been on. After watching the champagne pour, we headed off to the main theater for the production of Spotlight Bar. Now, the productions that I'm going to show during this video are going to just be some still images of what the productions look like. Unfortunately, on this ship, Princess did not allow for me to do any video or audio footage, but they didn't see I couldn't grab a few pictures to give you kind of an idea of what these shows were like. So, unfortunately, no music, just the music I provide, but this is kind of what these shows are going to be about. And then after that, we ended up heading back into Princess Live for one of the game shows that evening. I'm also going to go ahead and show you one of the drink menus here so that you get an idea of what kind of drinks are included with the different drink packages and what the different drinks cost if you choose not to get one of their particular packages.
Ready to have some fun? Alright, summer hits, here we go. Which one will it be? Should have known we're gonna go far. A, B, or C?
Our next day was our very first stop of the trip, where we ended up stopping in Cozumel. The island of Cozumel is a huge cruise port. There are actually two different cruise ship port locations, one a little further north and one a little further south. We were at the south port this time, where they do have a fairly decent shopping area here that you can go walk through. There's a whole bunch of different places you can go shopping for souvenirs, drinks, There are a couple of restaurants in here that we'll come back to later. They usually have live performers running around. There is also a taxi line here because there were like 4 cruise ships there today, so that taxi line got a little bit long. But you don't necessarily have to grab a taxi if you don't want to. You can go ahead and walk right past the taxi line, walk right out of the port, and come on out here and do a little shopping out on the streets. We chose to come back into the port after spending some time and got something to eat at Pancho's Backyard. It's a Mexican restaurant that's right here in the port. They have a whole bunch of different varieties of different Mexican food that you can get. There's a little menu that they provide here that's very high tech. So just to kind of give you an idea of what it costs and what they offer here for something to eat. And then the food was very good. I had some chimichangas and she ended up getting some really, really good enchiladas there. So after grabbing a bite to eat, we headed back through the port here to kind of give you a little look. They do have a tiny little beach here, but it's really not much of a port beach here that they have. It's more of just a little bit of a sightseeing place that you can come out and sit down and relax for a little bit in a few of the chairs that they have there. Most everybody chooses to go to the beach somewhere else other than the port here. And she decided she wanted me to show you the fountain and the birds grabbing a bath. So after we got back on the ship, we ended up heading back out to sea and gave you a little bit of a view of what it's like here off the back of the ship on deck 7 before we ended up heading off to dinner and grabbing something to eat here in the main dining room again. We didn't do any specialty restaurants on this cruise. We really just did the main dining. And then after we had dinner, we headed off back to the Vista Lounge for another one of the game shows that they were putting on.
Every time you write down the answers, please write down that team number, so if you get it right, we know where the point is going. Simple as that. One team said Long Island iced tea. Ooh, that's when you're indecisive and just grab a bit of everything. Wine. That's a good one. I'm gonna try this drink. Rat poison. However, the majority is Margarita.
The very next day, we got up early to get out and get to our tour for Belize. Now, here in Belize, you will not go to a dock. The ship cannot get into Belize City. You will park several miles offshore and they will run ferry boats and tender boats back and forth. But since we had booked a tour, we ended up having our tour boat come out right to the ship and pick us up and take us out to Rendezvous Cay here, where we got to have a nice little day at the beach, kind of relaxing and hanging out for a little bit. They did offer some stuff to drink. They had some very well-fed stingrays that were here right on the beach. He was cutting up food there for them so that the guests out on the island could go ahead and feed the stingrays themselves. So for the people that had never had the experience of doing that. And then I got a picture underwater of one of these incredibly tame stingrays that were out there. Then we ended up getting a quick little briefing here before we ended up heading off on our little snorkel adventure out just off the sandy beach, the entrance that they had off the quay out here. It wasn't too bad. Actually, the snorkeling was pretty good out here. There was plenty of fish. The reef was in pretty decent condition and it was a fairly easy, no issue snorkel before we ended up getting back onto the boat, heading back onto the ship and watching the last tender come back to the Enchanted Princess before we headed off to dinner to again grab something to eat after a day of adventure out at one of Belize's keys. Now, the food in the main dining room here has been very good on the Enchanted Princess. Every night was actually very good.
Good, well, welcome to our game show. Welcome to Stack and 60. Anyone familiar with this game show? No, not at all? Oh.
This was simply a game where you had to guess the 10 correct answers for the question they gave you in 60 seconds. Then our next day was in Roatan in Honduras. Roatan's a little island off the coast of Honduras. It is a very touristy area. They can handle several cruise ships here on the island on a daily basis. We ended up docking in Mahogany Bay, where they do have a beach club and a really great big shopping area that we're going to go ahead and give you a tour of. This is a very, very nice and developed little souvenir shopping area with a couple little places to grab something to eat. Now, this is Vicky going ahead and doing the tour here for you, because I got off the ship a little bit earlier to end up going scuba diving at one of the little dive shops that they have here on the island. And so once she's done with the tour here, we will go ahead and move on to the scuba diving portion, which was actually phenomenal. There she is, taking a break from the tour. A well-deserved break, obviously, because this is actually a huge area that leads over to a little beach club. You can take the little sky chairs there if you want. It is a bit of a cost, but you can certainly walk across if you do wish to just simply walk over to the area. It is very doable to get over to the beach club over here. And you can just walk in and go into the beach club, grab some beach chairs. They have even more places for you to kind of sit out here. There's a ton of restaurants as well. They have pay for cover chairs, they have umbrella chairs, you name it. They've kind of got everything you want over here if you just want to have a nice relaxing day hanging out at the beach and coming down here and taking a dip off in the ocean just off the coast of Roatan here. So the beach club is actually a pretty busy place. It tends to fill up pretty quick with a lot of the passengers from the cruise ships here, and it's doubly full when you have two fairly large cruise ships. The Carnival ship there and the Princess ship there are both well into the 140 plus thousand ton type of sizes there. And as we're coming out to the end of the tour here, she'll kind of wind you around to show you some of the rest of the shops here that they have. It's very, very nice and clean and very easy to shop around here and not have to worry about too much in this area. Now, I ended up going on a scuba diving tour actually through the cruise line. Princess Cruises offered it here, and for one of the dive shops that you could actually go on out and take a certified dive out here off the coast. It was very easy to do the dive here. I think it was about a 5-minute boat ride out to the different dive spots that were out here, and the water was incredibly clear. It was an absolutely beautiful dive. Obviously, there is a huge drop off there on the shelf. And then we have, well, very tame fish that have decided they want to go ahead and accompany the divers. He decided to accompany us for quite a while there and go along with us. He's probably used to getting fed, I'm guessing, by some of the different dive groups that come here on a really regular basis, because he is just hanging out, waiting to see if someone's going to feed him there. Now, towards the end of the dives here, I did end up finding a shy little crab that was hanging out here on the rocks. He obviously was a little bit nervous when I went ahead and shined a light on him. He certainly didn't want to have anything to do with me. And then afterwards, it was time to head on back to the boat and then jump on the bus to head on back to the cruise ship here so that we could both head off to dinner and grab something to eat, since we had both had some pretty active days either in the water or on land trying to find something fun to do for that day for us. That evening's production was called Five Skies. It is a little bit of a sci-fi gaming journey where you can kind of see where the costumes here take on a really, really futuristic and entertaining gaming style look. It was actually a really entertaining production. Our final port was in Costa Maya back in Mexico. Now, Costa Maya is been recently bought by Royal Caribbean. The entire port area is supposedly going to be redeveloped by Royal Caribbean, and they are going to have spent quite a bit of money continuing to develop out this port and kind of turning it into like kind of a perfect day type of port area. I don't know for sure all of the things that they're going to do, but it is coming, but I'm sure it will take several years here, and it's probably going to affect some of the other cruise lines that do come into this port. So the port is already really well developed. They already have pools here. There's already access out to the nearby town where you can go out to some of the beach resorts, even have some resident flamingos. For the time being, they do want you to purchase food or drink if you want to use the beach chairs at the pool area there, but there is a huge shopping area. For us, we went ahead and grabbed a taxi, and we went ahead and we're going to go out and go do a tour down the Malecon that's just here, about a $10 and 10-minute taxi ride away down to Mahawal. It's kind of a little just beach town area that you can go tour around, and they have various different beach clubs where if you go in and buy food and drink, you have full access to the beach and the chairs. They don't charge for that stuff. The taxis will drop you at various different points. You just have to tell the taxi where you'd like to go. We went ahead and stopped out at the lighthouse, since that's kind of the beginning of all of the different places that are along the beach here. They kind of start along here. They have all kinds of different souvenir shops. I couldn't even count how many different places you could stop off and get a massage along the way. I've actually never done that there. From what I understand, it's pretty inexpensive to grab a massage. There's all kinds of different beach clubs. There's little spots here with their own pool, their own loungers. There's hotels all along the beach walk here as well. But hopefully this little beach walk here will kind of give you an idea of what it's really like along here. And hopefully, as we provide some of this information for you, hopefully it helps you get a little better idea of some of the things you can do off your cruise ship here. And if it is entertaining or fun or informative in any way, we would love a like and a subscribe. It really does help out the channel, and it is completely free, unlike the massage tables there, which are almost completely full. So the Crazy Lobster is one of the more popular, or I guess more well-known beach restaurants and bars. You can actually ask the taxi driver to just take you down there if you don't want to make the walk down from the lighthouse, which is a little bit of a walk. But they do have a really nice beach there, and they do have Wi-Fi. We have gone there and gotten something to eat and hang out at the beach. Rule of thumb, bring sandals, because occasionally it does rain. This is one of the first times I've ever seen it that wet along the walkway there, but apparently it does happen from time to time. And then you can keep heading on down. There's more shops, more little hotels, and more places to go shopping and grab some different clothes, more massage places. It is a probably mile to mile and a half walk to go all the way down the beach here to kind of get an idea of all the different places. Yes, there's even more places to get a massage there. It's kind of a never-ending supply of places if you do want to get a massage. It's not really a difficult place to find an open place to get a spot for you to get a massage there. And then as we kind of work our way down to the end of the walkway here, there's just a few other little restaurants and little beach areas, little beach restaurants that you can stop at. There's a couple little nice hotels down at the far end here. And then as you walk down to the end, you can kind of walk out to the beach in some of these areas. And this is where you can kind of see all the little fishermen and boats that they do have out there. After our walk, we went ahead and came on back to the pool area where they were already putting on entertainment and had kind of everything going. There is this nice little beach area right off the pier that you walk in if you wish. You can make it a quick little beach stop and a little pool stop without having to go very far. All right, and then here we are departing out of Costa Maya. Now, after we left Costa Maya, it was time for us to actually go get some dinner back in the main dining room again. And every main dining experience was actually very good on board the Enchanted Princess. The food was excellent. They even got lobster in the main dining room on this particular cruise, which was awesome because everybody likes lobster. Afterwards, we headed off to Rock Opera in the main theater here. And again, this is basically just kind of a rock show with the dancers that they put on here with various different songs that they perform for. And then after the performance of Rock Opera, we went back into the Vista Lounge for an evening of stand-up comedy.
Thank you guys so much for coming out to my very first show on Princess Cruises. Yes. So right off the top, I want to apologize for my sweater because it's my first show. I didn't know how to dress. So
our final day of the cruise was a day at sea, and on that day at sea, we decided we'd go ahead and get a nice little relaxing time in at the back of the ship here at the infinity pool that looks out the back before we headed off to the buffet, where figured we'd give you a nice full complete tour of the World Fresh Marketplace buffet up on deck 16. On these particular class of ships, they have a really large and complete buffet. This is probably the best buffet you're going to find on any Princess ships. They have 3 different buffet sections in the center of the buffet, where they will stagger the times between breakfast and lunch and opening times, but the different sections will just kind of allow for people to move around a little bit more freely. And then they have a whole bakery and dessert area that's often kind of its own little section on top of the other 3 areas, just to kind of separate it off from the rest of the buffet. Now, breakfast starts early, and usually the more forward portion of this buffet will get going pretty early, and then it will start to switch over to lunch before the further back sections will end up starting off for lunch as well. So like I said, they just kind of stagger the times. We will even eat dinner up in this buffet, as it is actually pretty good. They have sugar-free options in the dessert area if you'd like that. They have all different kinds of desserts throughout the area here. They'll even have gluten-free desserts if you want to come in and get something like that. And they'll even have specialty coffees up in here either throughout the day, especially at breakfast, in this particular bakery area. So it's kind of like its own little bakery cafe, little section of the buffet. And like I said, this buffet really does just kind of keep going. They have all kinds of different food. You will definitely find something that you will want to eat here on this particular ship's buffet. So as we have sailed multiple times on Princess, we are platinum members with the amount of cruises that we've been on. So I'm going to kind of take you back into the Platinum and Elite Lounge that they offer on a kind of a daily basis in here. And they do offer appetizers and reduced drink prices on some of their drinks that they have. But just to kind of give you an idea of what they do offer back there before we ended up heading off to our last dinner in the main dining room before we ended up heading back to Fort Lauderdale and getting off the ship for the end of this cruise. Now, thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.